Do the Pledge of Allegiance, sir. Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we come today to bow our heads and open this meeting in prayer. Thank you for the opportunities you give us to serve you and to serve others. We ask for your blessings in this meeting. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen.
A workshop, Mr. President?
Yes, sir. The first item on your agenda and workshop, Vice Chairman, is a review of the quarterly investment report for the period ending September 30th, 2024. In your packet, you have the quarterly investment report. If you look at page 2 of that, you have two columns. One is the local government investment pool and the government securities. And so you can see that we've made approximately $2,876,716 in earned interest from our investments. In the local government pool, our weighted average yield was 5.33%, and in government securities it was 4.79%. So we did pretty good on our investments this quarter, to almost $2.9 million. Any questions?
When it states through the transfer of funds, just going from one local government to the government securities? Your
Yes,
transfer
sir.
of funds?
Yes, sir.
So we spent 13 million on construction and related expenses, but our balance only went down by $2.4 million.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Okay, no questions. And the next item is a review of the, excuse me, let me catch up here. It's a review of the 2024 strategic plan update for the Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority. Under state statute, we're required to update our strategic plan every 2 years, every even year. So this is the year that we update the plan. We've got, what we'd like to do is just cover this in workshop this month, then take some feedback from the board, come back and workshop again in November and review the strategic plan one more time, and then adopt it in December so that we can submit it to TxDOT so that we can be in compliance. So Ruben Alfaro is going to give you a quick presentation of our strategic plan update.
Real quick, just a question for you. When you talk about workshop, is it an offsite workshop or is it just a workshop here? When you say workshop, what do you
Just a
mean?
workshop here.
Just a workshop.
Yeah, just a
Okay.
workshop here. So we'll have this workshop with the board next month. In November, we'll have another workshop with the board to go over this, again, to get feedback from the board of directors. And then we'll have it as an action item in December to adopt the plan update.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairman, members of the board. Ruben Alfaro for the record. I'm going to go over the strategic plan draft. It's for your review and comment. In case you want to add anything to the plan, we can do so for the next upcoming board meeting. I don't know if they're going to put it on the screen. That's not it. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay, so this strategic plan would be for 2025 to 2029. It would have to be adopted before the end of the year, as per the regulations. moving on with the next slide. This now shows the whole loop system and all the projects that the RMA has in the future. As you can see, we separated the projects in short-term, mid-term, and long-term projects. Short-term projects are from 0 to 4 years to get it to letting. Mid-term projects is 4 to 10 years to get it to letting, and long-term projects are 10 to 20 years to get it to letting. The important thing from here is that we added the priorities to the plans, to the projects. As you can see, priority number 1, in this case, it's segment 4 of 365 toll. It's extending the project all the way to Conway Avenue with an estimated construction cost of 141 million in total development cost. And that's our priority number 1. Priority number 2, and that's a short-term goal, by the way. Priority number 2 would be Section A West with a total development cost of 320 million. That's to extend from Conway Avenue all the way to I-2 and the La Jolla Relief Route connection. That would be a midterm goal. This project would have to go through environmental clearance process, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, all that stuff. So that's our priority number 2. We identified priority number 3 based on environmental clearance process. We believe these should be environmentally clear first before Section C and Section E. So we have Section F as priority number 3. That's to connect from the east connector from IBTC to I-2 on the east side. After that, we have Section C as long-term project and Section E as long-term project as well. Those 2 projects would more than likely take the same length in time to environmentally clear them. They're bigger projects that are probably going to have to go through an EIS process, which is going to take 5-7 years to get that clear. So we'll move on to the rest of the plan. On this slide, I didn't have any information. It's going to have the latest updates on construction, but we'll wait to put those in until we adopt the plan, so we have the most up-to-date information. So once we get to that point, Ramon is going to provide me with the latest numbers, so we can have that there. IBTC updates, we're going to show, even though they're not our projects anymore, they have been transferred to TxDOT. We're going to have some updates as well there. IBTC is environmentally clear. The schematic is approved, and the project has been successfully transitioned to TxDOT. The I-69 connector updates, TxDOT funded the schematic and it's in progress, and the environmental phase, I believe it's also in progress. And for all these, we're going to get with TxDOT before we adopt the plan till we get the final information. SH68, TxDOT is in the final stages of the environmental phase, and it's expected to be environmentally clear, I believe, by the end of the year. And the schematic is also in progress. So here we'll also have the latest information once we adopt the plan. So for segment 4, the project limits are from 1016 to FM 396 or Ansalduas Highway. The length of this project it's 3.47 miles with an estimated cost, as I mentioned, of 140 million. And we're proposing a letting date for this project of fiscal year 2028. The next steps would be the project is environmentally clear. We would have to do an environmental refresher for this project because it's an old environmental clearance, so we have to refresh that. Acquire the right-of-way, and of course, finalize the PSNE. The challenges for this project, obviously, it's the funding that is to be determined. And this is just a zoom-in image of the project showing that it starts at Ansalduas and it ends at Conway, past Conway Avenue. The next project would be 365 toll segment A. This would be from I-2, 0.8 miles west of Showers Road to FM 1016. The length of this project is 7.73 miles, and the estimated cost is 320 million, and we're proposing a letting date of 2030. The next steps will be to execute the environmental clearance contract and begin that process, and then define the final route as part of this process. The challenges would be that the current route presents several residential displacements that have been identified, so we would have to identify the best route to take. This is segment A, just a zoom in image showing that it starts at Conway Avenue and it finalizes at I-2 west of Showers Road. The next would be section F. And by the way, these are ranked on by priority. So the first ones that came up are priority 1, 2. This is priority 3, which is section F. This is going to start at IBTC East Connector, and it's going to go to I-2 on the east side, east of mile 1 east on West Laco. The length is 12.75 miles. This has an estimated cost of 528 million, and we're proposing a letting date or an estimated letting date of 2032. Again, the next steps for all these projects after priority 2 would be to get them environmentally clear with the new contract that we're planning to execute and define a final route as part of this process. This is just a zoomed in image showing that it starts at the IBTC East connector and ends at I-2 right before the county line. Next project is priority 4, section C. This project is from I-2.8 miles west of Showers Road to I-69C, about 0.6 miles south of FM 162. The length is 29.89 miles, and it has a 1.2 billion estimated cost with a proposed letting date of 2035. The next steps, again, executing environmental clearance contract and begin this process and defining a final route. And then this is just a zoomed in image of section C, showing starting at the La Jolla Relief Route connection and ending north of FM 162. The next project is section E, and this is the final project. It goes from I-2 around 1 mile east of mile 1 East Road to SH68, the project by TxDOT. It's around 22.53 miles with an estimated cost of 934 million and proposed letting date of 2037. Again, next steps to execute environmental clearance contract and begin that process and defining a final route as part of this process. And then the next image shows a zoomed in of this section showing where it connects. And finally, I have the priority list showing the current ranking. This is all to be commented on, reviewed by you all, and then if any changes are proposed, then we can take a look at that. But these are the estimated letting dates as per the estimated times that we are going to take to do the development activities. Obviously, they're up to change based on the process, on the progress that we do in this project. But this is just the view at this point. And that's all I have.
So a couple of questions.
Yes.
I think the first one was, how was the priority established for these projects?
Priority would be the first one. I think we discussed having a connection from 365 to I-2, which is very important because that will bring the traffic from the west side to 365 and not only the traffic from the east side or from the bridges. So that's segment 4. Section A as well. It's that connection to I-2. And then after that,
the other section on the
the other part would be section F would more than likely be environmentally clear before the other 2 projects because it would probably be an EA with the FONSI, which would take less time than section C and E, which would require an EIS. And then section C and E, we can change them. It's not a set in stone thing. Priority 4 and 5, we can basically adjust.
those are both the long term.
So to answer your question, Director, what we did is we looked at traffic counts across the county from the east county line to the west county line, and we used Interstate 2 as the baseline to see. And so if you take the Westlaco Mercedes area, there's about 60,000 cars a day traveling east-west in that area. If you go over to the west side of the county and you take the Mission Palmview area as a baseline, there's about 40,000 cars a day. So there's quite a bit more traffic on the east side of the county right now than there is on the west side of the county. So what we discovered as we went through this process, we wondered why there was such a differential in traffic on Interstate 2 on east versus west. And what we found was that development on the west side of the county has actually slowed down because infrastructure is not available, water and sewer primarily. Um, that part of the county is under the jurisdiction of the Agua Special Utility District, and they're having challenges with meeting the growth. In other words, to supply potable water and to supply sewer services. On the east side of the county, a lot of that, the municipalities such as Westco, Edinburgh, Westco Mercedes, for example, Ed Couch, La Villa, they have capacity, and then the water supply corporations, Military Water Supply Corporation, North Alamo Water Supply Corporation, which have the unincorporated areas, they have some capacity to sustain some of the growth. And that's why we're seeing more development on the east side at this point, and that's reflecting in more traffic. There's more rooftops, there's more big boxes, and you're seeing more traffic being generated.
And tell me one more time, if there's more development on the east side, why is that the third priority and not the first?
Well, number one, we're still trying.
Connectivity to I-2?
Yeah,
or-
we're trying to get connected because we've got a gap connecting to the interstate from our project 365. So we're trying to get it connected to the interstate, right? To have a logical termini. Once we're able to get that logical termini to the interstate, right, which is where we want to get the port traffic to. We want to get that Ansel Duas traffic, Pharr Port of Entry, Hidalgo Port of Entry, Donna Port of Entry, Progreso Port of Entry. The goal is to get them to the interstate, so a lot of those goods can get to and through the county. So we've got to get that connectivity to the interstate. And then after that, so that's why those are ranking higher. And then the other projects, we're recommending the rank. Of course, at the end of the day, it's the board's discretion to determine the priorities for the staff. But that's, at this point, that's our recommendation.
But there was a feasibility analysis conducted on all of this in the past?
Yes, so
Okay.
this is a kind of a living document.
Absolutely.
We've had to update it every 2 years,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And we've had this strategic plan in place, and I'm gonna have to maybe go back to Blakely, but we had the plan in place in 2012 when I started with the agency.
2012.
Yeah, 2012. So we've been following this plan for the last 12 years. This is the plan we've adopted. We've had a little bit of variation in it, but not a whole lot. We've pretty much stuck to the plan for the last decade. But this is probably the first major update we've had to the plan. We've had little tweaks along the way, but this is where we've probably the first major update we've had in a decade.
But isn't this strategic plan needed every 4 years?
It got to be submitted every 2.
Okay.
It's got to submit it every 2, but it hasn't necessarily changed
Okay.
much
So
every 2 years.
the last couple of years, they've just sort of made some small changes.
Yes, they've been very minor
Do
changes.
you feel that this is the proper priority list right now based on the current demand
Yes, sir.
for the area?
So based on the data that we've been able to gather, that's what we're at this point we're recommending. Of course, we want the board's input. If there's anything that you want us to look at, that's why we've proposed it in a 2-part workshop this month, next month, before we bring it for adoption, so that everybody has an opportunity to study it, properly digest it, and give the staff an opportunity to look at anything that you want us to consider before we finalize the plan.
And just for review, is there any way to implement the new construction with current resources that are already in place, like mending on to Highway 2 in some way, like that Conway, the Section 4, going all the way across for $200 million? Is it possible to bleed it onto Expressway 2 or something? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud here and seeing if there's any possibilities, because you look at some of these dollars, and 365 toll segment west, $320 million, and you think that maybe there could be another way to bleed that on to Highway 2 or something. I mean,
So one of the challenges with Section A West, for example, is that the corridor is rapidly closing due to development.
there we go.
So one of the environmental constraints that we have on the south side of the study corridor, for lack of a better word, is a lot of that land is held by the federal government
Okay.
in conservation,
Okay.
right?
But is there anything that we can do about that? Because you're
the-
talking about a lot of money. And these are great questions. And I don't know if we're gonna have a second work session
Yes, sir.
on this.
Yes, sir. We're
A
gonna have
little
another.
bit more intense because one, these are really great questions because since I've been here, we've never had anything like this. And one of the questions that I have is, you mentioned that this study and this proposal is basically based on current numbers, which you just alluded.
Yes, sir.
What about the actual growth? And which way is the county growing? And where is the traffic that's coming into the county coming from?
Right.
Are those factors taken into consideration for 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Yes, sir. So we have traffic, traffic and, I'm sorry, TNR, traffic and revenue studies. There we go. And that part of that is determining origin and destination. Where's the traffic coming from? Where's it going that's going to use our roadway network?
Correct.
So we have some data, and that I probably need to share with Ruben here, looking to where the traffic's coming from and where it's ultimately going to. Some of it's going locally. International traffic, particularly that's crossing the border, is coming locally.
And where do they go?
So they go to a lot of the bulk warehousing, cold storage, the freezing facilities, and then that is repackaged and then it's sent out into the interior of the United States.
And which way are they going?
Typically, what the studies that I recall, most of it's going to the northeast part of the United States.
And they're going down
They-
Jackson.
Oh yeah, they're going down Jackson Road, they're going down Cage, they're going down Veterans, they're going down Stewart
How many
Road.
trailers are we talking about daily going through our cities? Because I
So,
see them in West Denver too. They go right through
yeah,
our small little streets.
so I can tell you, it's about 60,000 trucks a month that cross at just the Pharr port of entry alone, you know. Yeah.
That's about 2 or 3,000 a day.
Yeah. It's 2 or 3,000 a day, and out of those, probably about 1,500 are overweight week.
And those are the ones that would be taking the IBTC going up.
Yes. Yeah, so a lot of that traffic will be using 365 tollway to get to the cold storage, to get to the McAllen Foreign Trade Zone, to get to the industrial park in Mission, to get to the industrial park in Pharr. The other smaller cities have been quite developed, robust industrial parks like McAllen, Pharr, Mission has.
And these traders right now are crossing from which bridges are they crossing from?
They're crossing on Salduas, they're crossing the Pharr port of entry, they're crossing Progreso, and they're going to start crossing in Donna. The bulk of them are crossing in Pharr. That's where the highest traffic counts are for trucks right now.
So we really need to go do IBTC then, right?
Yes, sir. And IBTC, we environmentally cleared that. It got funded, so we've turned it over to TxDOT to construct it.
And do they have a timeline on letting and also
Maybe
construction?
Martil is here. Maybe he's got some insight for the latest timeline on IBTC.
Because that's an important piece to connect back up to 2 on the east side, right?
Good afternoon, everybody. Martin Maldonado.
How are you?
Yeah, so right now, I think the letting date for that one is 26. So we right now in the process of negotiating a work authorization for PS&E. We just agreed on a price for that. And so we're just trying to get that settled in terms of the work authorization, that executed so we can start. At the same time, one of the things that the critical path on that is going to be your environmental individual permit. We're thinking maybe that's another year from now. But in order to kind of offset that, we are starting with our right-of-way mapping and our right-of-way acquisition on that.
How many parcels do you all have to acquire?
That was 144, I believe is what it was.
The only thing I'll add on IBTC is that the RMA already did a lot of the heavy lifting for the relocates. We did 107, 108, yeah, about 107, 108 relocates, single family residents, mobile homes. There's still about a dozen or maybe 2 dozen left, but we got the bulk of it. The authority got the bulk of it out of the way already. So we've done a lot of the displacements and relocations on that project. We spent $8 million in protective right-of-way acquisition. We bought right-of-way in key locations where developments were going to go in so that the corridor didn't get blocked. And then we relocated quite a few single-family residential homes in the Red River subdivision, Country Meadows, Country Village, and we did a lot of the heavy lifting already on the relocates.
We're gonna reconvene on this. We're gonna have a next workshop, next meeting.
Yes, sir. Next month we'll have another workshop.
Ruben, you said for section 4 and A West, which is priority 1 and 2, right?
Correct.
Where are those in the process? Because it says latest updates to the construction phase will go in this page before strategic plan is adopted. Is
Or,
that right? Or
no, that's for segment 1 and 2 of 365.
okay.
We expect to have that construction updates
Oh,
there.
okay. Yes, you're right. Okay.
And then just to clarify, the priority list that's shown there, it shows section C on the west before the one on the east. That's the existing priority list.
Got it. Okay.
So what we're recommending is to be doing the east side first because it has more traffic at this point.
So the SH-68 and the IBTC?
No, it would be section E.
And
Hey,
just
section E before C.
but just to be clear, we don't have funding for any of these projects.
No, sir. We do not have any construction dollars. The only thing
How about project development dollars?
project development dollars, the only thing that we have that we can use excess vehicle registration fees, that we can use overweight fees for is for the environmental clearance. And so that's the part that we were going to undertake locally. In other words, the authority was to start the environmental clearance portion of the development. But we don't have right-of-way dollars. We don't have utility relocate dollars, and obviously we don't have construction dollars. So the idea is that we would go in, environmentally clear it, get the schematic approved, and by then we could possibly go to TxDOT and say, we've got it cleared, fund it. And that's what we did with IBTC. That's the same strategy we used with IBTC. We got it environmentally cleared. As soon as we did that, TxDOT said, we'll fund it, and they did.
And I'm sure you guys have like a milestone schedule that shows maybe these high level activities. Did y'all put together a graphic or a schedule that shows these are major activities, this is what we do have the funds to do, right? And then we'd have to go find X funds.
Yeah, so Ruben actually has a detail, environmental clearance, schematic, PS&E, utility, and so he's got a more detailed breakdown right now in the plan. We're showing the bottom dollars.
Yeah.
But he does have a detail, so we can show a schedule for that.
It would just be nice to know like this we can actually do and this we cannot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so you're talking environmental clearance, you're talking over a 5 to 7 year period. So those kind of expenditures, when they're spread out like that, we can manage them, we can handle them. We can't do $5 million a year, but we can do $1 million a year for the next 5 or 7 years. And so
would you be spreading out for that term because of the financial situation, or is that the amount of time that is required to get that clearance?
that's the amount of time. That's the process will drive that amount, that timeline. It won't be the dollars. It'll be the process just takes that long.
And I think this is what Director Del Angel is saying. See, you guys are professionals at this, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know anything in reference to the process that it takes from the development side all the way to the end when they turn on the lights. So I think that's what the help that we're asking for, because it seems normal to you to say, it's going to take 5, 7 years. Well, why would be the question that I would ask. That's the normal time that it takes to get just the clearance, the environmental clearance,
Yeah. So the environmental clearance, we can kind of show you a timeline of what it takes to just go through an environmental. And there's three levels to an environmental clearance. One, the lowest level is what's called a categorical exclusion. That means typically right-of-way is already in place, and so you've got to go check a few boxes on a form. But you basically that can happen pretty quick. The next level is what's called the environmental assessment. And that's kind of a mid-level, for lack of a better word, environmental clearance document. That at the end of the day, you're issued a finding of no significant impact. That's about a 5-year process on best case scenario to go through all the approvals, the reviews, the re-reviews, updates, and then which that's what we did on 365. That's what we did on IBTC. Projects of the magnitude like Section C and Section F would be what's called an environmental impact statement. And those will take many years to clear because there's just more environmental issues to address. And at the end of the day, you get what's called a record of decision, a ROD. And that's the highest level of scrutiny from an environmental clearance document, and that takes the most amount of time. So
What you said? What did you call it?
RODS, record of decision. Yeah, and I apologize. We tend to use a lot of acronyms in the, and our big brother TxDOT taught us a lot of these acronyms, and so for us it's second nature. But
I can barely speak English. Okay, so bear with me.
Yes, sir.
But I think, Bo, in the next workshop, it would be good to take us through one of the milestone schedules, right? And maybe break down a little bit more of why the time, right?
Yes, sir.
I think it would be beneficial.
Yeah, and we can kind of give you a relative comparison of what you've got to check off for a categorical exclusion versus an environmental assessment versus an environmental impact statement. And the list just gets longer as you go through the process.
Are all these routes finalized?
No, sir. So right now, these are just lines on a piece of paper. The environmental clearance process actually determines the route. So really, the biggest portion of the environmental clearance process is a route study. And so you've got to look at multiple routes and you prepare a matrix that looks at all the impacts. And, really at the end of the day, you're supposed to pick the alignment that has the least number of impacts. And I'm really simplifying it, but really that's what it boils down to. You look at the alignment that has the least number of impacts and the most feasible, and that's what they call the technically preferred alignment. And that's what you end up selecting at the end of the day. So we've got to do a route study and look at multiple ways to slice the project as far as alignment, and then come back with a recommendation.
So even for priorities 1 and 2, the alignment is not defined.
None of them are fixed. The only alignment that's fixed is IBTC, 365 tollway, and segment 4. Those are established because they've been environmentally cleared.
We haven't started environmental clearance for any of the other segments.
No, sir.
So nobody's engaged to help us with that.
No, sir. So we after the board adopts a strategic plan and says these are the priorities, then we begin the procurement process for professional services.
And where again are we on SH 68?
68, Van Martil.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Pretty.
Yeah, so right now with 68, the schedule that we had, we were supposed to get a ROD this month. However, it's been delayed a little bit. We got into some last minute discussions with the city of Edinburgh with the connection point on the north side with I-69. If we get an agreement, pretty soon, we think we could get a ROD in December. If not, it may drag into next year.
And now you're dealing directly with the city of Edinburgh to complete that? Okay. Right-of-ways, things of that nature have all been.
Yeah, so as far as right-of-way is concerned, we only have funding for segment 1, which is from I-2 all the way to 1925.
Okay.
We have started some initial right-of-way acquisition on that. We've got, I think, 2 or 3 parcels already. We are about 30% done with right-of-way mapping and parcel plats and field notes. And after those are done, we'll start doing appraisals and negotiations.
I'm going to ask a simple question. Where do you think before we start turning dirt on this project? 5 years?
It could be, yeah, something like that.
All right. Because, one of the things I did when I saw the strategic plan and so forth, I pulled up our mission statement. And it says our mission statement is effective partner in improving mobility. Okay. So I think the way we need to look at this and so forth is look at, where is the best use of our dollars for the greatest mobility? And we talked about the 60,000 trucks coming across Pharr. If we were able to finish this southern boundary of the 365 and then go through the IBTC corridor and go up that SH 68, that would probably provide greater impact on a gross domestic product for the Rio Grande Valley, because we have so much coming across the borders. It would take care of everything along McAllen, Mission to Point of Mission, and all the way through, of course, the city of Pharr, and then straight out up north. You know, then we get back into the traffic counts and where the valley's growing, et cetera. And I don't really know if our numbers are up to date enough to really give us that valid information, because it seems like we've been doing this for a while. Even you had just mentioned, Pilar, that
Yeah.
these are a little bit older numbers. So
Yeah, and that's
the difficulty of all this.
and that's part of the reason that we take a look every 2 years, because
Okay.
we know it changes.
So
Some
you have
years it,
2-year-old numbers right now?
yeah, we're
Okay,
looking
cool.
at 2-year-old numbers right now. So we know that there's time periods where growth accelerates for whatever reason, and we start getting a lot of rooftops and a lot of big boxes. And then we know there's time periods where development slows down, and that that we don't see quite the robust growth. And that's all tied to the economy and trade and commerce. And I think that's why we take a look at every 2 years to make sure we don't have something take off on us and we don't catch
Absolutely.
it before it gets away from us.
And this goes back to one of the things that, our community outreach that we started doing, and congratulations, you've been doing a fantastic job presenting. Some of the items there is everybody's asking, well, I'm building a warehouse down here. The EDCs want to know what's the mobility look like? Who's going to be using these roads? Well, it's the 18-wheeler. It's the big truck trying to get north, that type of thing. And so, I don't know if that's, I don't know, we need to maybe cater to that.
I think we're all saying the same thing, that, why are we here? What are we doing to make sure that we provide the best vision and accomplish the accessibility to traffic? We're very blessed. I think I'm older than most of y'all. By the way, last Wednesday, Zeke Rain was 71 years old, and I didn't get one call. Not from you, and me, from me.
Happy belated birthday,
Well,
Vice Chairman.
that's not the same, though, Mr. Pilar. Don't think that's going to be
That's
enough.
Wednesday. What's that date? What's that date, man? Because I'm gonna remember next year.
So we're very blessed because, there was times, guys, back in the 60s and the 70s, there was absolutely nothing here. Absolutely nothing. We all had to move up north for 3 months just to bring back a couple of $1,000. So the growth that you're talking about for every 2 years is absolutely correct. And it does go from Mission all the way to Brownsville. There's an incredible growth, and we're very, very fortunate. And it didn't happen by accident. A lot of people back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and even up to 10 years ago, that we kept working real hard to get where we are now. And it is correct. It's a region. It's one region. We used to have a lot of little railroad depots, and basically that's the reason that the Rio Grande have so many municipalities, and those days are gone. It's just every city has 3 or 4 high schools, and that's fantastic. And it looks like we're going to be like that for the next 20 years. And a lot of the reason for that, and I'll go on the record and say that's because we have the hardest working community in the whole country. And these guys the people that work really hard here in the Valley, and we know who we are, and we stand on their shoulders. So with that in mind, we want you all to do a good job to understand where we are today and where we're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years, and do the best recommendation and the best proposals so that we can address all those issues, please. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Anything else? Any other questions?
Real quick, if I just could, I'd love to see a breakdown. I know we're strategically looking at 10 years, 15 years, but if we could segment that down, and real narrowly look at 2 years, 4 years, or 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. Or if anybody says, hey, what are we going to be doing in the next 4 years? Here, it's right here. This is what we're doing in the next 4 years. Binding, no economic situations that, recessions and everything control all this too, so. But just like your comments, hopefully we don't see too many of those.
Sure. And we know this is going to be a fluid. We understand that, but at least give us every 2 years, every 3 years, or whatever you may think is appropriate. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Pilar?
No, sir.
We close this workshop now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're going to call this meeting to order. Do we have somebody on the?
No public comment, sir.
Okay. Yeah. No. Do we have somebody on the?
Oh, yes, we have Director Pardo and we have Director Camel on the by teleconference.
Okay. So we have 2 on the teleconference. We do have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we do call this meeting to order. No public comments.
No public comment.
Anything on reports?
Yes, sir. We're going to ask Ruben to just give a quick report on program management activity for 365, and then Ramon will give a quick report on construction.
Good afternoon again. I'm going to give a report on the development activities or the overweight, oversized corridor activity. And then I'm going to, well, we already talked about the strategic plan. So I had a briefing on the dates, but those are going to be adjusted because we're going to have an additional workshop next month. So here we see the list of the streets or the roads that are on the overweight permit. As you can see now, the street number 16 is Dauphin Road, which was added to the system, and it's on our website as well. It's also added on the map in our website. It's number 16 there, as you can see. And this is just a map of all the roads that we have currently on the overweight, oversized corridor. I don't know, wait. So starting with the monthly report from September 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2024, there was a total of 4,945 permits issued for a total amount collected of $1,010,756. From those, 21,756 were convenience fees for a total of permit fees of 989,000. Of that, 133,515 came to the RMA. Here you can see the latest 3 years monthly comparison. As you can see from the previous month, we saw a decrease from the 66.53 to 49.45. But if you can see from 2023 and 2022, this is a trend. It usually goes down in September and October, and sometimes it picks up by the end of the year. So this is the trend that we observed on the previous years as well, before 2022. Moving on to the January or the yearly report from January 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2024. There was a total of 57,588 permits issued for a total amount collected of 11,767,158. Of those, 249,558 were convenience fees, and the total permit fees ended up being $11,517,600. And from that, $1,554,876 came to the RMA. Finally, the accumulated from January 1st, 2014 to August 31st, 2024, it's a total of 372,296 permits for a total amount collected of $65,979,104. Of that, $1,303,704 were convenience fees, and the total permit fees ended up being $64,675,400. And of that, $8,593,722 came to the RMA. So this is just the updates of the strategic plan. We are going to update this to have the strategic plan adoption on December, so we can have an additional workshop in November. And that is all I have for today.
Good evening, Vice Chair, Directors. For the record, my name is Ramon Navarro. I'm the Chief Construction Engineer for the Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority, and I'm presenting a overall synopsis of our current projects that we have in construction. With that being said, we've currently got 3 projects in fruition, and this consists of the wetland mitigation project, which is our environmental justice project we have going on about 1.2 miles south of Ganjeno. Wow, this is really small. Well, I'm glad you got something in front of you, as I do too. We issued notice to proceed on this project on September 9th, and it's a 150 calendar day job. Substantial completion should be established by February 14th of January 15th of 2025, with substantial completion on Valentine's Day, February 14th. And to give you a little perspective, we did issue or warrant this project at a $5,850,993.87 price tag. We committed to getting a change order to the board for cost savings and bringing it back into budget. We're negotiating that, and this is a perspective of what they've done so far. This is looking south on the north-south levee, looking south. They have prepped all the right-of-way. This is another perspective from the south, looking north. You can see where they've collected all the brush, established their field offices. And this is a picture of the well site and the existing irrigation distribution well that's currently in existence. But that being said, I wanted to show that we are scraping the soils. We have picked up samples for testing to see how we can effectively utilize that soil, and that will be negotiations into the cost savings for the earthwork that'll be coming towards the board, to know the volume and the uses that we can utilize the existing dirt with on our property, and that would be a savings to the authority. The second project we have concurrently constructing is the tollway integration project. This is, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You feel comfortable January 15th, you'll be hitting that deadline in
Yes, sir.
2025?
I don't foresee an issue. The current hiccup that we're running into right now is the plant list that was submitted. There's currently seeds and some rooted plants that I'm not an expert in this, but a majority of the plants are more hardy if you plant them when they get by root, or when an established a root system, and they flourish more. However, we're going to be getting into a winter. We don't know how harsh this winter is going to be. So, secondly, the timing of us going out for plants was not a very timely process. A lot of the distributors and providers don't have these plants in service or readily available because they're pre-ordered and they pre-grow these. So we're having to utilize seeds, and that's kind of hesitant towards the herbiculture, or I don't know what he's called, the guy that makes the seed plants. He's kind of hesitant to utilize the funding, only because, of course, they have to warranty it for 5 years, and they're saying they don't want to have to go back and repay or pay more to get the seed, because we only pay once. And
So if we have a freeze, they'll come back in and replant?
it's got a 5-year warranty on it. They've got to grow, and they've got to sustain 5 years of development as far as the warranty on these plants. So that's why they're being so cautious with what they're stepping forward with.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Any other? I hope we got to your question. All right. Moving forward, we have the 365 tollway integration project. This was a project we let to CICE Construction. This is a $14.6 million project, and to date, we've paid out $1.8 million, or 12.42%. This time of establishment is directly linked to our heavy highway project, and we all know where we stand on our heavy highway project. We issued notice to proceed on March 17th, 2022, with 1,264 calendar days working on this project. We've issued 13 change orders. We're still in the black with the change orders. And let me get down to the bottom line, which is the production, and that's really small again. We're currently at 52%. With the approval of this estimate, it'll be 53, and we've utilized approximately 75% of the time. Looking at it in another way, in a more simplistic manner, we've got 45 weeks left, less than a year, to wrap up this project. Okay, we still stay optimistic about it. It's a possibility. They have brought in 3 retaining wall crews. They have established 2 paving crews, and we are working diligently on getting all of this in the ground and in production. I know the numbers don't really reflect that, as this pay period, we established a pay amount of 3.1 million. But we look forward to some hardy estimates coming up in the near future. Um, and like I said, we remain optimistic as far as a schedule and the recovery schedule. They can't dance around that any longer. We are in September. They have submitted the September estimate or the September schedule. So next month, we'll have the timeline of a true establishment. In addition to that, ETT, which is the electronic tolling utility that's in the middle, it's got all the high power lines in the way. They've committed to establishing a January, February finish deadline that's improved from the March, June deadline they had given us, but they haven't made any promises. We'll get their commitments by the end of next month, and we'll know when they'll be in and when they'll be out. And that'll give us a more realistic time date to the overall establishment and constructability of the project without that hindrance of the utility in the way. However, that's still not nothing they can bank on. Some of these easements are just 50 feet or 40 feet wide. They've got 12 miles of road to construct. There's no excuse to put their hat on the rack because of those utilities. As you can see, some of these pictures, working now. We spent, we woke up last Thursday morning to completing the last slab on the floodway bridge. This was a big big accomplishment. This is a 3,700 feet of bridge slab. This is the prime diamond jewel of the project, you could say. And we are going to be putting up rails, et cetera, and hopefully have connectivity on that here coming up quickly. We continue our night processes of the continuous reinforced concrete paving. The retaining walls have kicked back in. We are currently working on retaining walls at Jackson, at 10th Street, and US 281. We've got Anaya, Highline, all in the ground, and those are probably no less than 80% completed. We've got a lot of the substructures in the ground. We continue working with our partners at the Hidalgo Irrigation District Number 2, implementing infrastructure one location at a time, but we are accomplishing it. And putting riprap on the levee, and we're about 95% complete on the first section of levee, and have commenced the new other two sites, which is 281 and Jackson Road. We've got the first two lifts in the ground. One of them, the one at Jackson, does have an archaeological site underneath it, which was a little slow delay. We've already established our lifts above it, and we're ready to proceed with constructing the wall on that. Other than that, that concludes my report. May I entertain any questions or concerns at this time?
Any questions? No? Everybody okay?
Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Move
Thank you.
move on to item 2, the consent agenda. Mr. Villar.
Yes, sir. All matters listed on our consent agenda are considered to be routine by the governing body and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, if discussion is desired, that item or items will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Need a motion?
So move.
Move.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Uh,
Number 3, the regular agenda.
Yes, sir. Item 3A is Resolution 2024-40, approval and consideration of one-year extension to the interlocal cooperative agreement with the Hidalgo County Drainage District Number 1 and the Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority for design, acquisition of right-of-way and construction of drainage outfalls for the 365 Tollway and the International Bridge Trade Corridor projects. This is just a one-year extension to an existing interlocal agreement that we have with the Hidalgo County Drainage District Number 1. They're constructing all the off-site outfalls for us. In other words, where all our drainage water from the roadway will be draining to. So we are participating with those improvements. The Drainage District has taken the lead, so they're designing it, they're acquiring the right of way, they're constructing it, and we're paying our pro rata share.
Have they been good partners?
Yes, the Drainage District has been a really good partner. Yes, sir.
They're on schedule to meet, I guess, our deadline as well.
So they're a little bit behind schedule, but the delays have been on the right-of-way acquisition. We've had some owners that they have still are negotiating with, primarily on the alignment for the ditch outfalls for the drainage channels. And so, and in some cases, multiple owners where they're trying to decide what the final alignment is. Once that's done, the drainage district has been going in with their in-house forces and digging those channels up pretty quick.
Is there a reason this is is it just 12 months? Or is it?
Yes, sir. So initially, we executed this interlocal agreement back in 2016. And when we bid the project the first time, and then we rescinded that bid and then went back to the drawing board. So we've been extending it, and we think in about another year, they'll have all the work completed. So that's why it's just a 1-year extension.
This time for reals, maybe?
Yes, sir. For real.
Okay.
I mean, there is a lot of work in progress out there. It's just taking a little longer than.
Any negativity for the RMA to extend this?
No, sir. Like I said, the drainage district has been a good partner. They work
I'll make a
very well
motion
with
to
us.
approve as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Chair?
So under chairman's report, the only thing we have is that City of Pharr would like us to consider a resolution supporting them taking over Spur 29 and Spur 600 from TxDOT. So what we'd like to do is maybe pull the board for a special meeting next week that we can do all virtual, to approve that resolution, and then the interlocal agreement between the RMA and the City of Pharr for Doffing Road for the collection of those overweight permit fees.
Have there been any discussion with the state, and if so, do you know what the state's position would be on that? If they're going to be willing or to consider releasing those roads?
My understanding is the Texas Transportation Commission will be considering the request from the City of Pharr at their December meeting. I spoke to the district engineer today, and that's when it'll be going up to the Texas Transportation Commission to consider that.
What are the pros and cons for the RMA?
So there's really no cons for us. What we would do is continue to administer the overweight permit system. The City of Pharr would issue their own permit, which we would administer for them. So we'd still get our 15% administrative fee, and then they'd get the remainder of the fee, whatever they decide to charge for those networks that are within the bridge. Which that's what Spur 29 and Spur 600. Spur 600 is the entrance into the bridge from Military Highway South up to the toll booths, and Spur 29 is from the Border Safety Inspection Facility exit north to Military Highway. They're both about a quarter mile, maybe a little more than a quarter mile. It's the entrance and exit to the bridge.
Do you know, obviously, this is financially driven for the city?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Do you know what the net amount would go into the city coffers?
I do not. We're going to have to, it'd be an estimate, but 60,000 trucks a month going through there. We just need them to tell us what the magnitude of order of the fee that they're going to charge, so we can, they still haven't disclosed that to us, what they want to charge for those permits. So as soon as they give us that number, we can estimate the revenues.
Who would determine that? Us or them?
They would, City of Pharr, because those roads become theirs to issue a permit on. We would just administer the permits for them.
Would the RMA ever be in a position to perhaps take ownership, not specifically of those roads, but other roads that would generate revenues for the RMA?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever considered that?
Well, at this point, we haven't, because we don't have the capital dollars to go out and do that. But in the future, that's a consideration. Once our toll roads start generating excess revenue, then the authority would be in the position to do that.
I mean, it seems to me, and we all know that this authority, like any other agency, is basically driven by the finances, right?
Yes, sir.
And after all these years, I'm not so sure where our financial state would be today, because I don't know what the needs are or the needs may be. And we've been discussing briefly today in reference to the workshop on some of the roads that could be basically constructed in the next 10, 15, 20 years. But if in fact there is some methodology where the RMA could possibly generate some revenues to assist and maybe even expedite some of this vision and some of the needs that the county is going to be requiring for the growth. Have you ever thought about going into that realm?
Yes, sir. I mean, that's what the overweight permits was designed to, was,
Okay, that's a good program. Do we have anything else?
at this point, we only have vehicle registration fees and, overweight permits. Once 365 comes online and we service the debt,
Yeah.
whatever's left over, we'll be able to utilize.
That's a long time from now, no?
It's got a ramp up period of about 8 to 10 years before
Okay.
we start seeing some excess cash.
It's just an idea, just to think about it so that you can throw it back at us at some point in time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just to finish your point, so we're gonna do a virtual meeting
Next week.
next week?
Next week, yes, sir.
Is there any way that you can submit the recommendation where the state position may
Yes,
not
sir.
be, why it's good for the RMA or why it's not good for the RMA, which is what Mr. Williamson has asked.
Yes, sir.
We just need to make sure that we vote appropriately, okay?
We'll work up a recommendation.
Okay. No other questions? Chair will, Vice Chair will recommend a motion to adjourn.
Would like, before we adjourn
Yes.
real quick, I'd just like to say congratulations for Ruben and so forth on our community outreach. He's gone out and visited already, and so everybody has and so forth. I just want to say thank you. He did the Pharr Summit a couple weeks ago, which was a presentation for warehouses in Pharr, and people walked out of there after his presentation and say, I didn't know that was happening. Oh, wow, that's wonderful. And so he did a very good job presenting. He's going into RGV partnership next week. He's going to go into the this week also. You're going to be presenting to the Mid Valley brokerage custom service group, and MEDC wants to. You already visited with MEDC, so I think the spreading the word and getting the community outreach presented, and I think it's paying a lot of dividends. So we appreciate all you're doing, everybody, the entire group, because I know it's a joint effort. So thank you very much.
I think we discussed that in the last meeting, and I think you advised us, or somebody advised us within your staff, about managing this whole agency on the skinny, and perhaps it's something that you may want to consider to expand your staff to be able to reach out a little bit more. I know there was a big bang when it was first created, and there has been a slowdown in our community involvement. It's kind of had a knee-jerk reaction in the last 2 or 3 months. So maybe that's something else you can consider too.
Yes, sir. Well, at the November meeting, we'll be bringing a public outreach plan, and then a marketing plan.
Okay.
Because we're, like Ramon mentioned,
Great.
we're less than a year away from opening the 365 tollway. So we've got to start marketing that. And then we need to kickstart our public outreach.
Yeah, it's not fair for you. It's not fair to the rest of the staff to not be fully staffed in the capacity that it needs to be staffed to be able to comply with the needs. It's a big county. It is a big county now. I mean, we're big boys now. We have to actually, we need you, and you need your staff to be fully in place, please.
Yes, sir. And the other thing that'll be on the agenda is we'll have a workshop for the draft budget for the 2025 fiscal year. So we'll be, any proposals will be in that budget, and then that's scheduled to be adopted in December.
At any time, if I'm sending too many people or you're doing too many different directions, let me know, okay? But I encourage the board and anybody involved with the RMA, if there is a center of influence that we can talk to, I encourage them to do it. We all know a lot of groups and a lot of people, so.
Yeah, and also I wanted to add that thank you to Maria and Yvonne from the staff as well. They were helping me at the truck expo. So they were the ones staffing the table that we had out there. And they talked with the people about the overweight permits, and they promoted them as well. So.
That came up late, and you did a fantastic job, Pilar. Thank you for organizing that and getting all that done. We appreciate it.
I can't take the credit. It was the staff.
Awesome.
So they did the heavy lifting.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Need a motion to adjourn, gentlemen? Dele.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. You're kidding.
Yes,
¿Cómo
sir.
se quedaron?
Second.
Motion to adjourn second. All those in favor say aye. Also, pose same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Got another one to go to Mr. Pina.